Hello, my friends. How are you today? I'm feeling, you know, normally this is Alder's sweatshirt. I love it. Normally, when I wear it though, it's like it makes me feel like Gandalf and I feel like so powerful. But instead, lately, it's been like I feel like I'm more like the Emperor from Star Wars. And it's like all the energy around me is like dun 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 dun. Oh my gosh, yesterday was insane. So I know I haven't, well, actually, I have recorded a lot of videos. I just haven't posted them. I don't know if I ever will, but I have actually. There were two that I did that I thought for sure I would have posted by now. One was like a guidance around a moon energy too. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. I always think I'm like, maybe this will see the light of day, maybe it won't. I don't know. Um, anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys today about love. And it's interesting because the more I believe or think I know about love, the less I really understand it. I really wanted to shoot this outside, but I was pulled to do this in here. So I think mostly because I don't want to be in the light right now. I'm like trying not to cry. I'm like, I have tissue if I need that. Um, and I'm like, I look green in this light. I'm like, I feel, so, but it's funny because, I mean, not that I normally look like this, but I'm saying this is how I feel. I could do the lighting. There's way better lighting outside. I could put a cute outfit on, but I feel like this is how I'm feeling. And they're like, no, go with what you're feeling. Like sometimes outwardly we look the way we feel. That's why when you see somebody, sometimes you're like, dude, you're looking rough. You okay? You know what I mean? And that's good because that's kind of like a sign to say, I'm not okay though. I'm not okay. And I don't know why, but I feel like I want to keep my hands busy, so I'm gonna braid my hair while I talk to you guys. Um, so Alder and I had a huge, massive fight yesterday. We've been fighting a lot, and you know, we had a horrible heat wave here where I live in the Pacific Northwest. I literally like we live here because of the weather because it's sunny enough when we want sun, but when we don't want sun, it's nice too. And it gets hot enough that, we can enjoy it. But if we want even hotter, we don't even have to drive like 20 minutes to get hotter. It's interesting because we're by the sea, right? So, anyway, we had a heat wave. It was like 5 days straight. And even though I'm a triple fire, I don't like to be hot. Those of you who know me know I don't like to be hot. And when you have to be outside because your house is like 100 over 100 degrees and it's horrific and you can't breathe, it makes you a little cuckoo bird, you know? And I was sitting outside, but I was like having to keep moving around to like be in the shade, and it just like everything just like, I mean, I was calling it my naked dress. I took an old T-shirt of Alders and I like cut it like into this like, well, I was basically just covering my breasts and my bits just so I wouldn't get in trouble. You know what I mean? Um, my neighbors are like from the road or anything. But yeah, I mean it's like that kind of hot pour Baba, like, I'm like, Baba, just lay under the house, like, that's, I'm like, go under a bush, like go in like shadow, like, and I get the whole empath thing. I get the whole like I have to go through, you know what I mean, whatever the energy is, like I'm going through it. But however, I came across something that was very, 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 very interesting to me, and it was this woman who reminded me of this actress that I actually really like. She's not super famous. She's like more of a character actress, but she's been around forever. She's older than me, and I'm 52, and so she's probably like in her 60s. Anyway, long story short, I was really drawn to this person, and she was talking about breaking soul contracts. And I feel like I remember this before in like different, teachings and, things like that. But this was the first time where she was like, this is a call to the empath. She's like, you do not have to feel like this all the time. She's like, you don't have to take on people's stuff. She's like, you don't have to. I'm going to do this so I can sit back. Okay, that's better. Because I feel like I'm like trying to go forward to talk to you guys. Because see how I look? Like I'm drained. The irony is I'm really tan. Like I've got like really good color. In fact, I have like a burn mark that I have here, that I'm dealing with. But I mean, there's just the implosion of energy is so, and the fact that like they're gearing up the political race in the United States, and it's just interesting. So I'm guarding my energy because when I'm out in the world, I'm doing my best to give love. With my husband, with Bubba, I'm doing my best to give love. But that fucking heat wave came in, and I was like, nope. I mean, I was cool about it. Like, we had fresh food and fruit. I mean, I was like living on watermelon and grapes, and like felt really good. It was like a really nice cleansing. The first 3 days, like, well, the first day I was like, whoa, okay. Then the second day, I'm like, shit. The third day, I accepted it. The fourth day, I'm like, okay. By the fifth day, I was like, bitch, I'm out. I'm like, I am done. Not to mention that it happened over 4th of July. So, where we live, guns and fireworks are illegal. But it's such a small, like, I don't think there's enough police, or, you know what I mean? Like, people do it anyway. People don't fucking care. They don't fucking care. They don't fucking care. They do whatever the fuck they want anyway. I mean, the United States and where I live, it is the Wild West. It's like the Wild West, man. And people just do whatever the fuck they want, and they don't care, you know. And I've just been doing my best to stay in a high vibration and be good, and because I do feel like when I'm in a high vibration and things are good, like things do feel really, really good. You know what I mean? Like they do. But at the same time, I'm like, there's like only so much one can do. You know what I mean? There's only so much one can do. And the fight that I had with my husband yesterday was just a culmination of these patterns that we've been in for so many years now, that I feel like I'm breaking my back to try and change, and I know he is too, but I like just, this isn't like me throwing flowers at myself. We both recognize this in our relationship. There's always going to be somebody who's stronger in one area than the other person. It just is. He's stronger than me in certain areas, you know what I mean? It just is. But when it comes to understanding things, I'm like quick, man. I'm like, you can tell me fucking once, sometimes twice if I'm really high, sometimes 3 times if I wasn't really grounded and I was high, you know what I mean? But for the most part, if you tell me something, I'm gonna, especially if it's something super important, I'm gonna put it in my file of important shit in my head. And it's like, my stoner brain and spirit work together to keep me from overload, So I'm going through such a massive transformation that I just don't have it to give the way I used to give. And, Alder and I had a really great talk before the fight, about certain things that, we're both working on, and he's working so hard. That's the thing that's really hard, is like, or difficult, is that I see how hard he's working. It's just that something inside of me, like every time something happens, it's like I'm super chill, I'm loving, I'm like everything's good, But then if it's something where I'm like, it's like the 100th time in a row, and we've talked about, can you please work on that? Like, I'm like, I just fucking lost my noodle yesterday and cried hysterically. Total cancer energy, cancer moon. I can't even imagine what the next week's going to be like with cancer full moon. Um, I'm seriously, seriously, seriously thinking about like talking to him about it today, about him going away till after the moon, because I feel like something's got to give, something's got to change. I got to figure some shit out. Um, you get to a point where you're just like, I, I don't know I don't know anymore. I don't have the tools for that. Or I don't have the bandwidth, or I don't have the capacity. And I think we have to recognize with our partners, even, animals like Bubba and I feel bad. Bubba and I had a huge fight last night because two fucking Bengal cats showed up at our house. Like really expensive ones. I've seen them online, and I thought it was just one. And then yesterday, Alder's like, "Oh, I saw that cat again, or whatever." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Maybe I should bring it food because we saw it a few days ago, but we haven't seen it. But we're on a big farm. There's 5 acres here, and there's a lot of places for them to go and hide." And but anyway, long story short, when I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring it some food." So I go out there, and I have just a little bit of kibble on a plate and some treats, and I put it down and I'm like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hi," and then all of a sudden I see this other head poke up around him. I'm like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Whoa!" There's two of you. I'm like, "Is there a litter in here?" I'm like, "What's going on?" And then I thought, "There's no way. Like we've been here for months. Like we would have known." And one had a tag and one didn't. One was slightly bigger than the other. So I don't know if it's like a mother and like one of her kittens. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. Um, we can't get close enough to them. They're too skittish, but they're beautiful, and they're gray and black. They're not like, and I think the gray and black Bengals are really rare because they had like the leopard spots, but then like the stripes, and I'm almost positive that's a Bengal. And I was like, those are really expensive and rare. I'm like, those just wouldn't be out wild. I'm like, something is off. So um, we got Bubba in the house, and then I said, I'm going to bring them more food. I mean, that was just like a, are you okay? I wanted to see if I can get close to it because the first one we saw had the tag. So I was like, well, maybe I can get close to it so, we can tell their owners that they're here. I've had an ad up on Craigslist now for a while and not quite 24 hours and not one bite. So, I mean, if that were me, I'd probably be frantically looking every hour or so. I've lost animals, so I know what that feels like. And uh, or animals have run away, whatever. I had an instance once with a cat that ran away for months and then showed up dead next to our the building next to our house on top of their dumpster in the winter in a garbage bag frozen. And then took him to our vet because I needed to know like what happened to him. Was he poisoned? I'm like, what the fuck? He's been gone for months. This is crazy. And found out that, well, he wasn't frozen solid, but he was, anyway, long story short, he's like, no, he just got hit by a car like recently. And I'm like, what? I'm like, there's no fucking way. I'm like, somebody had to have kept him in the house or something. And he got out and maybe tried to cross the alley to get to ours because it was only an alley between our buildings. It was so bizarre. I still will always, that will always be like a weird anomaly story. It's almost like I'm not meant to know more about it. People are like, oh, you're a telepathic medium, you know everything. I'm like, I used to think that, but I don't. I mean, spirit still puts blocks up and walls up for things that if I'm not ready to understand or work through that, process yet. But anyway, so I went outside so I went to come inside and he said, she's right by the door, don't open the door. And I said, okay. And I said, Bubba, get away from the door. I said, I have to come in. I said, back up, back up, back up. And we have like a loose screen, like a kind of like a drapery panel. Instead of a screen door because our screen door I just hated it, and so we got rid of it and put in that. And as I was opening the door, I could see her trying to get out, and I went to push her in, and she wouldn't listen, and she tried to wrangle out, and both of her sides are really bare right now because she's molting and she's got like big chunks off of her. And so she got hurt, and then it was just like this whole thing. I mean, the whole day yesterday was just, the energy was just so messed up. And I bet if I looked at some astrology report, they would probably, but it was weird because it was the 11th, and I was like, oh, babe, it's the 11th, and I'm like, are we just in like some false narrative? Like me, Alder, and Bubba, like, I'm like, are we really meant to all like live together, or like has this gone as far as it's going to go? And it was just really weird. Just the whole day, the whole night. We got Baba back in the house, but it was just like such a mess because she started chasing after them. Oh, that's how he knew the cat was here, because he heard Baba growling, and we were concerned that it was, I've seen, I was walking around the property yesterday and I seen a lot of scat, and I know there's coyotes around here. So I thought she was growling at a coyote. That was, so Alder like ran out there like right away. And then that's when he realized that, the cat was there. Then we found out there was two. So we got her back in the house. I went back out. I fed them. I couldn't get close to them, but once I put the food out and I walked away, I was a good, I don't know, 20, 30 feet away, and they went for it. So I can tell they were hungry. So if they are somebody's pet, maybe they just were hungry because they haven't been home all day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, it was at dusk, so it's hard to say. So Alder, mowed the property yesterday. He was all over with the weed whacker. He's like, that's so weird. He's like, you'd think that I'm like that. Yeah. So I was walking around the property yesterday. I always do that before he mows, just to make sure like that their grounds are good, and that there's no animal burrows, or, and we just make sure it's safe, and pick up garbage and sticks and, pine cones and rocks and things like that. Because the terrain here is pretty rough. It's beautiful, but it's very, very hilly and rough, and it hasn't been cared for in many, many moons. So it's just wild. The wildflowers have been beautiful, though. So with all that being said, what I started to realize is that I told him yesterday I really want a divorce. I'm like, I can't, I'm trying, but I don't feel like I can do this anymore. Like, I said, we met 9 years ago. We were so different. We were completely different people. And for the most part, we've grown together. But since we've been together, it's been rare that we've been at the same place. And I said to Spirit, like, is this my challenge? Like, as a teacher and a student who teaches, you know what I mean? Is he just my greatest challenge, or are you trying to tell me like this is as far as this is gonna go, unless you change? Like, I feel like I've been like, you have to change, you have to change, you have to change, and I've been trying to change, but unfortunately I feel like it's like the trigger hippie, it's just constant. And I am a loving being, but I am also human here. And it's like they wanted me to, like I said, I can go out there, you could see how cute my pink cheeks are and everything, but it's like, for some reason, it's like I'm meant to be in this very dull, kind of like sad, and, it kind of reminds me of when I almost did die, the way my skin looked gray, you know. In fact, when I went to put it up, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, no, we need to shoot somewhere else. I'm like, in the bedroom. I'm like, this is rough. I'm like, no, no, no. Plus, I'm puffy because I fell asleep on the couch and I was crying. And so, this cancer energy is no joke. So either Alder and I are just meant to work through our own stuff individually, and we'll come back around in the fire energy of love, because his moon is in Sagittarius and my moon's in Scorpio. So, the water moon's always going to hit me harder because of my moon is in water, just like the same for him with fire. So I'm hopeful that this is just a phase, and whatever. But after we have these fights, I hear myself And it makes me, it reminds me of that Taylor Swift lyric. I know it's everywhere, but it's true. She's like, I am what I am because you made me. Look at my nose. Try not to cry. Look, I finally have some color on my face. That's awesome. See, look at my color's coming back in my face because I'm releasing this pain. Because after he went to bed, I was like, I need to watch something or do, like, I found myself in this kind of like, gimme, 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 Bob Wiley. I need, I want. And whenever we are in that, we really just need to be quiet and shut the fuck up and just be. Get out of the thoughts. Don't be, you can observe the thoughts, but don't be in the thoughts, But sometimes we have to just dig in or dive into the deep fucking end of the fucking ocean so that we can figure shit out. So I'm watching this and I'm watching that and I'm watching this and all these shorts are coming to me where I'm just like, all right, fuck, okay, I get it. And then this person comes to me who I've never heard of, this reader. Oh no, I just recently have heard of her, but I don't believe I subscribed to her. Anyway, it wasn't a pick a reading. It was just like, this is a message somebody needs to hear kind of thing. And I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, it was like, and she even said in the first few minutes, she goes, you'll either resonate with this in the first few minutes or you won't. And it was funny because it was literally like the first few minutes. I'm watching these birds out the window. It was within the first few minutes and I was just like, holy shit. And then at the end, she was talking about love and sensitives and just how each of us observe, give, received, act, react with the energy of love. And then at the end, she said, it's like, somebody could say something 100 times or you hear a song 1,000,000 times, but then you hear it that one time and then you're like, holy shit, because you're different and you're in a different place and your mind's different and your thought process is different. And she said, when we all learn how to love from our parents or the people who raise us, and in traditional households, there tends to be, traditional quote unquote, there tends to be two. But as we know, there's no such thing as traditional, right? So there could be a single parent. It could be, same-sex parent, whatever. But what she said was, there's always going to be a stronger divine feminine, and there's always going to be a stronger divine masculine, in most cases. No matter what people identify with. And how they treat each other, or how the single parent treats themselves and others and their children and all of the above, just basically all the households. She covered everything, I'm paraphrasing. She did it much more eloquently than I am in this moment. But it was really powerful. And she said how we love ourselves and others is how we observed love. And she said, and I'm not talking about when you're like 12, 11, she's like, I'm talking about when you're like 2, 3, 4, when you're developing into your own personality, into your own person. She's like, what does love look like to you? And it blew my mind that right after she said that, she said, if you come from an abusive household where your parents are hurting each other with words or, fists, or like if it's a violent household or, there's a lot of negativity, she's like, that's what you're raised in. And even if you witness love, if your parents are expressing their love that way, or if they, you know, had a tumultuous love where it was like a fight and then they'd have like a hot makeup session, you know, um, she's like, then that's how you know, it was just so fucking interesting. And I was just like, just, yeah, you know, because we're little sponges. But if you're an empath, as I am, right? So I watched a lot of abuse in my family. And when Alder and I get to a certain place, there's this darkness inside of me that's so horrific that I'm like, oh my God, I'm an abuser. I'm a bully. And it's interesting because I feel the same way about him, because he's the withholder of love. And it's this, there's like these patterns of like, you know, I'm getting super personal with you guys, because if we don't recognize the patterns, it's like, how do we change? You know, like at this point, I'm not sure how to work. I don't even know how to talk to him right now. And it's so bizarre because it's like these ebbs and flows in our relationship that are happening. You know, he really is more like on a sun energy. I'm on a moon energy. And he has more of a sunny disposition, but he doesn't show it. It's like his natural disposition is sunny, but he is a very dark individual. And his parents and the energy around them was very dark, and they were addicts and drank and smoked and all that until they got sober when he was 12, but the damage was done. You know what I mean? And carting him around, you know, from place to place with them so they could party. They'd either leave him at home, and then they'd, you know, somebody, a neighbor or somebody would tell on him, then, you know, then they'd take him with, lock him in a car. You know what I mean? Like, how fucked up. Like, some of the stories he tells me, I'm like, I don't even know. You know what I mean? And then mine's the same. It's like mine was always at a cost. I always felt like I could be loved if I did this, or I would be loved if I did that, or if I was quiet, you know, if boys didn't, you know, appreciate or like girls who were smart. I was lucky I was pretty, you know, just like all the fucking weird shit that was like said to me, but, you know, not to mention what I witnessed as a child. So I feel like every time I'm like, yeah, I fucking made it, man. Like, I made it. I'm like, I am a shaman, you know. Then this shit happens and I'm like, no, man, I like signed on for some fucking hardcore human shit that I am still working through. So I will forever be a student and a teacher. And I think that's the most important part. We're never going to elevate to some, you know, yeah, I wanted to get all pretty and look good for you guys, whatever. But sometimes even like the visual is like a metaphor for like what we're going through, because it's not really about this. I was told that I would be more loved if I was prettier. I was told I'd be more loved if I was skinnier. I was told I'd be more loved if I was less intelligent. I mean, just all the fucking weird, crazy that my higher self recognizes as absurd and ridiculous, but that my human, you know, that's still in there. And my inner child, she is angry and frustrated, and she's mad, and she doesn't understand why Alder just can't be loving Alder all the time. She wants to be playful, she wants to be loving all the time. Alder's not that person, and I keep wanting him to change, and I cannot change him. And so either I release and let go of that control and just keep loving him anyway, you know. But then it's like, I don't know, it's like, but I'm drained. So what's draining me? Is my relationship with him draining me? Is his energy draining me? You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know. I don't really know. And things came out of my mouth yesterday that I can't take back. But the worst part is I meant them. And I think when we feel better when we're alone than when we're with other people, that's a clear sign that we're not meant to be in each other's energy field at this time. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know if it's forever. I don't know, but these patterns keep happening with us, he and I, and in some ways we're growing through them, and in some ways I'm just exhausted. I'm like, I don't want to do this again. Like, clearly neither one of us feels like we need to change in this department. And if we cannot accept this from each other, it's like, is that love or indifference? And so what is unconditional love? And what is, because it's like you can love somebody. I mean, I love everybody. I love everybody and everything, but you don't have to like them. I mean, things came out of my mouth yesterday where I was like, I don't even know if I actually feel that way, because I don't feel that way about him, but I feel that way about the side of him that I don't believe is his. I believe it's just a shadow and a darkness that is really deep rooted. And it brings out my shadow and my darkness that's really deep rooted. Which, does that mean we haven't healed them yet? Or does that mean that, like, that may never get healed in this lifetime? So you walk away from that person? Or, you know what I mean? Because I want to feel good. There's so much going on in the world. I just feel like my home life must feel safe. It must feel good. And there's something really off and wrong. And I don't know if living in a house is going to change that. A part of me thinks it will, because it's so difficult. This is the other thing that's really been blowing my mind. When we had the heat wave, or before the heat wave, I was saying we should probably put the sink outside. There was just all these things that I wanted to do, and now the heat wave is over. And the worst part about this heat wave, I know I feel like it sounds so victimy to say the worst part, but the most difficult part for me was we went from like 50 in the 50s and cloudy to like 90 and like full sun for like 5 days, and then it dropped down to 60. And it was just like, I just feel like I have whiplash, like just the energy the heat takes out of you. And he was working during that time, and he's like, oh, I thrive. And I'm like, I don't think you do. I'm like, I think you used to. So it's like, I feel like he's fighting, like, he finally admitted to me that he's like not comfortable with the aging thing, and that he can really feel it. And anyway, I don't have the same feelings. Sorry, I haven't been sleeping very well. The heat and everything. I don't have the same feelings towards aging as other people do. Maybe because I won't. Maybe I'm going to die young. I don't know. I still feel young. I still look young. I mean, I know I'm just looking a little rough right now and very paunchy. Um, but yeah, let's put it this way. I'm sitting in the RV right now, and I think it's like 10 or 11 in the morning, and I have my hoodie on. You can see the sun's out. What an extreme. And maybe that's what they're trying to teach us, how to work through these extremes, how to keep extremes. It's not easy being green. I feel like I sounded like Kermit the Frog when I hear myself. I feel like Did you ever watch Modern Family? There was this episode with the two dads and their daughter, their adopted daughter, and she was getting into the point where she was understanding sarcasm, and she's like, "Oh, are you in the Wawa room?" She's like, "Oh gosh, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop being a victim." And you see them like look at each other, and they're like, I didn't teach her that. Did you? She must have learned that at school. But anyway, by the whole episode, you realize they taught her that. And then they're like recognizing that they have to unteach her that. But it was just really, really interesting. And they're like, she's mean. They're like, we're afraid of her. She's like 4. And they're like, she's so mean. She was like 4 or 5. Anyway, it's kind of how, well, at least I didn't cry. Well, I cried a lot yesterday. And I know he probably feels like shit today. And he probably feels like whiplash because like one minute I was yelling at him and telling him I hated him and I wanted a divorce, and then the next like hour later I had cooled down and I was like, is it really over for us? I mean, should we just like stop torturing ourselves? And he was like, maybe. And he hardly ever says maybe. He's always like, no, baby, we're gonna work through this. He was like, maybe. And I was like, maybe. And then that just like triggered everything. Then my child abandonment. And I mean, it's like if we're not fucking triggering each other. But I met this woman recently who said, I think twin flames serve a purpose, but I don't know if twin flames are meant to be there forever. And we had this whole conversation about it. I'm like, yeah, because everybody thinks they have a good shag and that's their twin flame, and it's like people ask me certain questions and I'm like, dude, not everybody if twin flames are real. I'm not even 100% sure if they are. But if they are, to me it would make sense that there'd be less of them than more of them. Because it is not for the faint of heart. It really is not. This is like soul crushing, twisting knots, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pain. I was going to say beautiful power and then excruciating pain, but it is beautiful pain. There's something about it, but there's also a time to retreat and say, I give up. Like, it was funny. This thing came into my orbit. I might post on the Magical Medium, and it was talking about the reason why 99% of the people on the planet aren't doing what they really want to do is because they give up right where you are right now. Don't be that, be in the 1%. Don't give up. I'm like, fuck, like, and then I'm like scrolling through, and it kept like certain things kept coming through where I was like, we just watched Bruce Almighty. If you haven't seen it, it's free on YouTube. Please watch it. If Spirit calls me to, I'll put a link below. But it's with Jim Carrey and Morgan Freeman plays God. It's really funny, and Jennifer Aniston plays his wife. I totally forgot. Plays Jim Carrey's wife. I watched like 3 or 4 Jennifer Aniston movies like right in a row. It was so bizarre. And I was like, when did that happen? And there's another one on there, Along Came Polly, and I'm like, I feel like I'm saving that one for when I really need a laugh because it's like really stupid funny. Like, I love Ben Stiller, but it's like, kind of silly, slapsticky funny. Anyway, even just watching movies from 20 years ago, I realized like how fucked up and sexist and misogynist and just, you can see what was going on. There's just so much happening out there. So please take more time to yourself. Alder has this job in Olympia, and I'm so excited because I feel like we need a break. And I told him, I said I think you should take a break on either side. I'm like, I was like, take a day or 2 before the job and take a few days after the job. I'm like, we will be fine. I'm like, if anything, I'm like, we know enough people up here now. I'm like, I'm not concerned, So, yeah, I was like, I feel like I need another really long break, not just a few nights, but like a week or 2, because there are certain things inside of me that are so dark, and sometimes I wonder if I was born in shadow and born into a family of shadow. Because on the outside, my family, it's like, everyone's like, oh, they're so nice. I love your family, or I love your blah, blah, blah. They're so nice, or they're so cool. And I'm like, not to me, they're not. Or like at like family parties or certain things, like things would come out and it's like, I'm like, you don't really know them. I'm like, you don't know them, man. I'm like, that's all I can say. I'm like, you don't know them. And I learned from the best, like to wear masks, to be whatever. And, I remember a family member said to me once, they're like, "You're dark. You are so dark. You act like you're so loving and nice, but you're actually really dark." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, we all are. We are all dark. Look at what we learned from. Look at what we saw." You know, I remember one time I had said something about my grandpa, my mom's dad, and I don't remember how old I was, but it was one of those things that, you just see your grandparents for what they are. You don't, whatever. So, long story short, one of my family members was like, "Well, he wasn't always like that." And I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Don't you remember grandpa was really mean? He's gotten nicer, but like he used to be really mean." And I'm like, "I guess I just don't remember that side of him, or maybe I didn't want to see it." But then when I heard stories, I was like, well, no wonder why my mom was so mean. No wonder why, my aunts are so mean, why my family could be, really mean. The men, everybody, all of them had a very mean, mean, mean streak. um, the only one actually who didn't was my Uncle Johnny. He was like so sweet, but I'm sure Johnny had his moments too. But there was definitely something about him that was so, 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 so sweet. And I used to feel that way about my one aunt. And then I saw a side of her, like as I started to get older, I was like, no, man. And I used to think, oh, that's just her warrior. And then I was like, no, that's being raised in that energy. So, I'm realizing there's a lot of ancestral trauma that I really need to sift through, not to mention my dad's side. I mean, I'm not even, my dad's side, both of his parents were alcoholics and 8 children. I mean, it's all there. The proof is in the pudding, and we can't run away from it. We have to heal it. And if you're like me, maybe you were meant to be the ancestral healer in your family. And I feel like I am. And until I can really understand love, I don't know if I should be around anyone, until I can get a hold of it. Or maybe I'll never get a hold of it. I don't know. I don't want to believe that. But I also don't want to keep candy coating everything right now. It's rough out there, and we need to talk about what's hurting us so that we can release it and witness it and let it go. The things that came out yesterday, I feel embarrassed and humiliated in a weird way, and I know that I shouldn't, but I do, because I really, really felt like I was done with that. I felt like that was over. I haven't felt like that in a really long time. I haven't wanted to sling hash like that or say those words, or like Southside Chicago Kelly is what I call her. She's a fucking survivor. She's a warrior. She will rip your fucking head off. I don't need a weapon. I just need my mouth. That's all I need. I will go for the jugular. Being a telepathic medium, I know and an empath, right? So like I can pinpoint someone's weakness in seconds and sniff it out like a fucking dog. It's gross. I hate that side of me. But I cannot hate that side of me or I cannot love myself until I love that side of me and accept that side of me. The fact that I even said it, it's not a Freudian slip. That's how I feel. And I was saying that to him. I'm like, I hate you. I'm like, I hate him. I hate that he keeps destroying our marriage. I hate that he's so mean. I'm like, why can't you just stay in a loving high vibration? I'm like, why is that so hard for you? And he's like, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm like, I know, but and he's like, well, it doesn't help when you keep telling me. And I was like, you're right. And it's like, then I hear myself and I'm like, I'm a fucking monster. I am what I am, because you made me. I'm sure we all have a little monster running inside of us that we haven't healed. That inner child, that ran rampant, that didn't wasn't allowed to express themselves the way they needed to. So maybe that's why I wanted to braid my hair. You know, it's interesting. I didn't think of it that way, but the other day I almost just lopped off all my hair. I was just like, I don't care. Like I'm like, I need a change. I'm feeling. I bought all these new clothes, but like I'm just not feeling. It's been really interesting. So whatever metamorphosis I'm going through, I just have this feeling you are too. And feel free to comment below, or don't. You don't have to share. Just know I love you, and like it's nothing personal against anybody right now. I'm just going through what I'm going through, and it's not really victim mode so much as understanding why I would even want to go into victim mode, or you know what I mean. There's just all of these different things that I feel like I really need to work out and work through, and it's nothing personal against anything or anyone. It is purely just what is happening. You know, it just is what it is. So, with that being said, I think I'm done. But I want you to explore your childhood, what you witnessed as love between your parents, um, you know, and it could even be that, maybe your parents had a really loving relationship in front of you, but you always felt like something was off. And then they got divorced, were very surprised, but maybe they kept it quiet. Maybe, I mean, there's just all these things. Maybe your parents were awesome and were fully in love with each other, but you're looking for that. And because you're looking so hard for it, you're looking for love in all the wrong places. I mean, there's just a lot of variables that I feel, because love is so complex and relationships are so complex. And I feel like we need to dig deeper into them. My wounds are deep. What I witnessed was horrific. And I just urge you to do the same, especially now in this Cancer energy and this water energy, before, especially in the full moon, as it's getting closer. And this is the bookend too. This is the blue moon, right? This is the blue moon because we started the full moon in Capricorn. There's 13 moons. There's 13 moon cycles in 12 months of the year. So we're always going to have a bookend full moon like that. And this one happens to be in Capricorn. And Capricorn is an earth energy, but it's also, I always think of them as like the parents of the zodiac. So it could be that that's why we're in this intense energy of the bookends of the Capricorn moons, so that the Cancer, it's all about home, whether it's your home now, your home in your past, it's about retreating into our shell, going into solitude, trying to figure out, what's going on with us. It's a very emotional, Cancer energy is very emotional, very tender, very loving, very soft. So be gentle and tender and loving with yourself during this time. I'm going to do my best to do the same. And until next time, do your best to take very good care of yourself. And when you can, take care of each other. But in the interim, take care of yourself, love yourself. Because it really is RuPaul. Because if you don't love yourself, honey, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? And it's so true. And how we love ourselves is how we show up every day, how we take care of ourselves. There's all of these things. There's so many things. And at the end of this, are we the 1% that will become, let's put that, let's broaden that. I'm like, in my little pouch, I'm like, let's broaden that wider. You know what I mean? Let's broaden that wider. Why is it 1%? There's billions of people on this planet. Let's make the margins wider where we all become successful because we don't give up. Because we recognize it, because we're healing it. We're not pushing it aside. We're not having another drink and throwing another dart at a bar and being with our friends and pretending like, we're not unhappy and then going home. And you know what I mean? It's like I heard the same stories and I'm like, I lived it, man. I was there. I know the 2 a.m. burrito crying, watching fucking The Wedding Date for the 100th time. You know what I mean? Like, I know what it's like, to abandon all sense of self because I am not going to run away from the transformation that I know I need to be a part of. All right, you guys, I'm pretty tired. I love you. Thank you for listening. And my hope and my prayer for all of us is that when we meet again in this format or readings on my channel, that we will all be in a better place for ourselves and each other. Whatever's in each of our individual greatest and highest good, I claim the best. I claim abundance and joy, peace, happiness, and love in our hearts and our minds, our bodies, our souls, our energy field, the universe. I claim it for all of us. On our each individual path, whatever's in our greatest and highest good, I claim it for all of us, and so it is. Blessed be. I love you guys. I love you, Spirit. See you next time.